I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life.
That is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who through an Instagram live stream shared granular details about what she experienced on the day of the Capitol Hill riots. And she also, clearly from the cold open you just listened to, opened up about something that wasn't previously known, the fact that she's a survivor from a sexual assault. She didn't give any additional details about that, but she was clearly emotional while sharing not only her firsthand experience of dealing with white supremacists who clearly wanted to murder her, but also how that trauma was compounded by previous trauma that she experienced in her life. And so I don't want to put any words in her mouth. I think it's important for you to hear what she had to say. Let's take a look.
The reason I say this and the reason I'm getting emotional in this moment is because these folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize. These are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma compounds on each other. And so whether you had a negligent or a neglectful parent, or whether you had someone who was verbally abusive to you, whether you are a survivor of abuse, whether you experience any sort of trauma in your life, small to large, these episodes can compound on one another. There's no, something really big happening to you, and then you deal with it, and then you move on, and then when something else happens to you, you deal with that, and then you move on. All of our experiences make us who we are, and that's also to say that most people live with trauma. And it's not and that doesn't even diminish, any of the trauma that any one of us may have been through. But it is to say that there is a community of so many people who can understand.
So I personally really appreciated her, first of all, opening up like that, putting herself in a vulnerable position, and more importantly, not only just talking about what she experienced, but how trauma is compounded by additional trauma. And it was something that I actually didn't even realize until much later in life. Actually last year, it was the first time I realized, it turns out that this unresolved trauma, or trauma that you think is resolved, still subconsciously has an impact on you, and it does make you who you are. I'm not saying that it necessarily has to make you, think of yourself as some sort of victim or anything like that, but it does fundamentally change you in ways that I think people don't even realize, right? And so I appreciate that she did this video, Cenk. Part of me feels like she did this in addition to explaining just how much fear she had on the day of the Capitol riots, to give an explanation for why she doesn't want to work with certain Republican lawmakers who provoked what took place that day, right? So you have Ted Cruz pretending as if he wants to work with someone like Representative Ocasio-Cortez to pass Wall Street reforms. But Ted Cruz, let's not forget about who Ted Cruz is. Ted Cruz not only helped to provoke those riots and repeated the lies that Donald Trump was putting out there about widespread voter fraud. And he did that, by the way, to raise money. But he is someone who has never been in favor of regulation, has never actually wanted to hold Wall Street accountable. So for people who are raining terror on AOC for not wanting to work with Ted Cruz because of his involvement in inciting that kind of violence, let's really take a step back and think about who Ted Cruz is here, what he actually engaged in, and maybe let's not demonize someone who actually wants to fight for the policies that we need in this country, policies that would, at least begin to close the divide between the rich and the poor in the United States. Making AOC to be some sort of enemy to the point where, I feel like she felt the need to explain what she was going through that day is just unacceptable and ridiculous, but that's my take. And by the way, this video was done for anyone who's criticizing her for this video wasn't done for you, okay? Maybe you live in some, nice privileged situation where you've never been a victim of any kind of abuse, but there are countless people, not just in the United States, in the United States, but across the world, who have experienced similar trauma that she just talked about openly. And that video resonates and means a lot to people who have gone through similar trauma and have felt alone, who felt like they didn't have a voice and they didn't have the ability to connect with someone, regarding this kind of awful experience. So I commend her for it, and I think she's incredible.
Yeah, so first, real quick on Ted Cruz. Look, if you think Ted Cruz is trying to hold Wall Street, high-end donors, and the wealthy accountable, I don't know if I hate to say it or not, but you're a rube, you're a sucker. That's never happened before. It would be a massive change of position overnight. He is 1,000 times more likely to be exploiting it, to be a fake populist. He's never going to actually fight for it or vote for it. And you're being a useful idiot by going along. Oh, Ted Cruz is so great. Why won't AOC work with the progressive Ted Cruz? I mean, come on, really? I mean, you're having some sort of emotional reasons why you're saying something that unintelligent, if that's the direction you're going. Okay, so if it came down to it and Ted Cruz wants to vote something that we agree with, great. Well, of course, anybody's gonna take his vote. But we're not gonna trust him ahead of time like a sucker and do his marketing for him like a fool. Okay, so let's just make that clear. Number two, so why did she have to even bother doing this? Because already people were raining down, let's just say, to put it very mildly, there's skepticism on her, right? We don't believe you. We don't think your life was in danger. You're being over dramatic, all this stuff. So you forced her to tell you the details of what happened. So as it turns out, she was hiding and a guy comes in and starts yelling, "Where is she? Where is she?" Later, they find out that he's Capitol Hill police. But in that moment, she was incredibly scared. Now, when she tells you the backstory of why she felt that way, a normal, decent human being would empathize. Indecent human beings would look at that and go, "Oh, she's a survivor of sexual assault, and that's why it shook her." I don't care. I don't believe her. She's a phony. I never suffered that, so I don't believe anyone who has. And I don't think it makes any difference because I never experienced it. So it's the conservative prick mentality. And I don't care what part of the political spectrum they're pretending to be in, okay? But that's exactly how conservatives think. If I didn't experience it, it doesn't exist. I don't believe it, right? So she had to spell this out, and obviously she was emotional as she did it for the most, again, obvious reasons you can imagine. So her critics doubled down because they're asses. So now, look, I got something out of that video that it wasn't just about January 6th. I never had sexual assault or any kind of assault like that happen to me, okay? So I come from a privileged perspective and I can recognize that. And so oftentimes you'll see me saying, I'm not in danger, I am the danger for the establishment, for the right wingers, the fascists. In a situation where there is conflict, I'm here for it, okay? So I'm not gonna run from you, you're gonna run from me. But now I get to say that because I never experienced that. So when I was a kid, I wasn't traumatized by it. It didn't put fear in my heart. I was super lucky. And with that luck, I try to fight for others. But if you can't see that others have a different perspective, there's something wrong with you. Please open your eyes, your heart, your mind to other people's perspectives that she's trying to deliver. And guys, You have no idea how many people this affects. To me, and this is very ironic and has nothing to do with the AOC story, but one of the things that opened my eyes to it is how easily QAnon was converting people. Because the minute they say sexual assault and child predators, giant percentage of the country has had to deal with that and has kept it undercover, under wraps, because they were embarrassed about it, etc. And it immediately appeals to them because they remember what they went through. And so this is a much, much bigger problem for the country than anyone has ever recognized. So please, let's try to deal with it with compassion and understanding and empathy, and get people the right answers and get folks the support that they need, so that some portion of them do not go in the wrong direction, looking for answers in the wrong places.
Look, I know that as someone who identifies as a believer in the left, as part of the left, I mean, a core tenet of that is to want to fight for a world where everyone has a life of dignity, right? Like that's an important part of being on the left. And I just find it curious that some of the people on social media today who purport to be giant warriors for the left don't believe in responding to AOC with decency, right? To respect her lived experience. And if you don't have something nice to say, just like, how about don't mock her? How about don't go after her viciously? And also, it's real easy to minimize what it was like to be in the Capitol as that building was breached, as you have these violent people, coming after lawmakers. You don't have enough Capitol Police there to keep control of the situation. You can hear them yelling. We've seen so many videos of them, breaking windows and doing what they can to get into various offices. So it's easy for you to sit behind a computer and be a little Twitter warrior about how this was nothing and let's minimize it and let's belittle and mock AOC for being terrified that day. But the truth of the matter is anyone, especially those Twitter warriors, would be absolutely terrified if someone was doing that to their home. If someone was breaking into their home and threatening to murder them, threatening to hold them hostage with flexi cuffs. But AOC did also share some details about the kinds of threats that she received prior to January 6th, which is the day that the riot took place. And I want to share that with you. So for instance, about a week before the Capitol riot, Ocasio-Cortez said she began receiving text messages from members of Congress warning her that she needed to make plans to ensure her safety, and that in particular, I needed to be careful about the 6th. On January 4th, after driving to the Capitol for a vote, she returned to find Trump supporters standing behind her car, heckling her. The following day, the crowds outside the Capitol grew. Also, keep in mind that federal prosecutors have charged one of the rioters with threatening in a tweet to assassinate AOC. So the threats were real, and they were further corroborated by Representative Portman. Representative Porter, Katie Porter, who gave an interview and explained what she experienced along with AOC. Let's take a look at the first clip.
She saw me, and we waved. I went into my office, and a couple seconds later, she knocked and she said, could we come in? And I said, of course. And she began to, her staffer was trying to describe what had happened. And Alex is really usually like unfailingly polite and very personable. And she wasn't even really talking to me. She was opening up doors. And I was like, can I help you? Like, what are you looking for? And she said, I'm looking for where I'm going to hide. And the thing that will always stay with me, the two memories that really, especially as a mom, I think were just really powerful for me, was when she said, I was saying, well, don't worry, I'm a mom, I'm calm, I've got everything here we need. We could live for like a month in this office. And she said, I just hope I get to be a mom. I hope I don't die today.
So, Katie Porter was in an office and AOC was looking for a place to hide, and she let her into that room, and that's where they had that exchange. Cenk, did you want to comment on it before we go to the next video?
Yeah, so the guy who said he was going to assassinate her had made it into the building. And as they were breaking into the building, remember they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." So they were in a murderous mood. There's no question about it. And of course, one of the Capitol Police died during the altercations, let alone 4 other people. So if you still think like that it's fake drama, how many people did you need to have killed before you believe other people's pain? So it's just unbearable. Anyway, now in terms of the other comment that AOC made, she said that it was like that abuser coming back and telling you that it was your fault, right? Mm-hmm. And in so many stories of abuse, it's the gaslighting that really drives folks crazy, right? It drives me crazy hearing it. So, and that is Republican 101. They punch you in the face, and then when you turn around and say, "Can you not punch me in the face?" They go, now look at this. They got victimhood, and now they're trying to milk it just because. And I am offended because they said something mean about. How about the part where you punched me in the face, right?
Milk it for what? 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 They want consequences for Republican lawmakers who lied to the American people about alleged widespread voter fraud that Trump's legal team couldn't provide a shred of evidence for. But they repeated those lies anyway, further stoking tensions, riling people up, and inciting people to show up to the Capitol on the day that Congress was certifying electoral college votes. Milking it for what? For a podcast? Is that what she's milking it for? She doesn't have a podcast. These people are pathetic and disgusting, absolutely pathetic and disgusting. To totally mock someone's experience like that, this is why, honestly, I find it difficult to even be in a vulnerable place like that, right? Like I give her a lot of credit because I could have predicted that this would be the response. Because people are insanely cruel, narcissistic, self-interested, cynical, and disgusting.
Yeah.
I have no interest in working with people like that because I honestly think if you're genuinely wanting to do great things for this country, then you respect other people. You respect their lived experience and you don't mock them and put them down in a moment of vulnerability, in a moment where they share the most difficult experiences of their lives with the public. Sorry, Cenk, I'm milking it for what? Milking it for what?
Yeah, so I want to read a couple of our viewer comments because I think they're so on point. Politics Ticks wrote in, interesting that the political side that most loudly yells about how they need guns to protect themselves from home invasions, etc., are so quick to minimize someone hiding from people looking to harm her. If an angry mob is no danger, why are you clinging to your guns? I wanted to read that to you because I honestly hadn't thought of that. And it's such a great point. Conservatives are always living in perpetual fear. Oh my God, the black man's gonna come get me. Oh my God, the brown guy's crossing the border. Oh my God, the Muslim is gonna impose Sharia law on me. Yeah. Oh my God, black people are in the suburbs. Black people are in the suburbs. They live in perpetual fear. They're the biggest cowards in the country. And then then they go and threaten other people's lives. And after they threaten their lives and say, "I'm going to come and kill you," they go, that person gets a little scared because they actually do come and kill people. Then they go, "Ha ha," as if they aren't the biggest cowards that have ever lived.
They murdered a cop using a fire extinguisher. They beat a cop to death using a fire extinguisher. But let's minimize what happened that day. Let's minimize the fear that people felt that day, lawmakers felt that day. And I'm talking about women of color in Congress who have been targeted by Donald Trump himself ever since they were elected, over and over again. And by the way, I mean, what did we hear from Trump and his cronies when it came to leading up to the midterm elections in 2018? Migrant caravan, be scared, migrant caravan. I mean, that commenter is absolutely right. All they do is use fear to get people to support them. And then when you have lawmakers who are just sharing the legitimate fear they were feeling that day. Let's mock them, let's put them down. I mean, fear is their bread and butter. And in this case, AOC isn't using it as a political tactic. She's doing it to open up with her constituents, with the American people about what it was like that day. And I would suspect why it is that she refuses to work with a Republican lawmaker like Ted Cruz, who is not interested in regulation. It does not have the same political agenda as the left does, but absolutely did help to stoke tensions and incite violence on that day and leading up to that day.
I want to give airtime to two more members because we got the smartest audience in the world. So Colorado Blue Blazer Regular wrote in, absolutely on point, Anna. Words fail to convey my fury at these cowards. And then Kuda Morad made another point that I hadn't thought of. When 4 people died in Benghazi, the GOP wanted investigations for years. But when Benghazi happens in our own capital, and even more people died and are still dying, they want absolutely nothing done. And finally, that gets to the political point here, which is the Republicans and some of their useful idiots that are pretending to be on the left are saying, let's just move on. Let's just move on. I don't believe any of them anyway. It's all fake drama. My beloved Trump and his beloved mob that murdered these people are so great and they're just real Americans. Let's just move on. Let's move on. You guys didn't move on from Benghazi for 4 straight years or however many years they did for those investigations, probably longer through Trump. And you did what, 9 investigations of Benghazi because 4 Americans died. Having nothing to do with anyone here right in front of you in our capital, 5 people die. And you go, it's no big deal, so what? They didn't invade one of our embassies in Libya. They invaded our capital, and you think, yeah, but I like them, and I like that they were trying to overthrow our own democracy. So I don't mind that they murdered people. So instead, I'm going to attack AOC, who was one of the people that they were trying to kill, instead of worrying about the actual rioters themselves that killed those people. And if you're in that camp, well, look, I don't want any bipartisanship with you. You're a despicable person. I want to defeat you politically, and then get the American people what they actually want, which isn't anything like you.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.